Note to self, Tunic Part 5, flashing lights warning.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tunic. We're doing some more side stuff as well as entering the Eastern Vault. So we'll be clearing that out in this part, which is why it's so long as it is. So it's one of those things where I had no good place to end besides just finishing off the boss. So it's what it is.
So, I want to know, what is the story and setting like in this game, apart from the decidedly meta element of trying to find pages from an old school video game manual? Is there deep lore the way there is in Dark Souls, or what?
Sort of, because basically there's a story of like the hero and getting sealed away to save the world and sort of thing going on. What you need to do is break the cycle, and the game's not super clear about that.
A long time ago.
Yeah, there's the lore right there.
There's the lore right there. Just read it. Pretty much.
So does that stuff get translated for you ever, or do you just have to No, you have to figure it out. Okay.
You gotta figure it out, or like look it up
Okay.
and have a little visual guide. There are characters that you can talk to later, and I haven't looked up any of the translations. I kind of want to at some point, but I assume that they probably also give you more context on what's happening in the world.
Gotta find those Albed primers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this doesn't seem like the kind of thing where, you'll find the kind of game where you'll find a hat on the ground and then you'll read the primer on the hat and you find out that this miner from 30 years ago wore the hat and used it to kill the king or whatever, like in Dark Souls, where every item has a 15-page backstory.
No, not quite that detailed.
You eventually realize that Dark Souls is just the Star Wars of video games, because everything in Star Wars, just like Dark Souls, has a 15-page backstory and probably a whole book series dedicated to it, if you go back far enough.
Well,
Right.
You could throw a coin in the well. Oh my goodness. Oh wow.
Star Wars was a bit inconsistent about that, because a lot of stuff had some background lore that Lucas had, on standby, but a lot of the stuff relating to like extended universe novels was stuff made up as they went along by the various authors who wrote for the expanded universe, who George Lucas absolutely did not give a flying fuck about. So, often Lucas would later contradict them.
Yeah, I know that. I know that happened a lot.
Right.
Yeah, the Thrawn trilogy had a very different idea of what the Clone Wars were even about than Lucas did eventually. So Lucas wrote the prequels and completely contradicted what the Clone Wars were. And then later books by the same author had to, sort of finagle a way for the two ideas to work together in the same universe. So there was a different set of clones that went insane, and they weren't actually the enemies in the Clone Wars, even though it sounded a lot like they were.
That seems complicated.
Yeah, it was.
I just know that if you ever Google what are the bugs from episode 2 that almost killed Padme, you look up their Wikipedia article. Wikipedia, if you're not familiar with Star Wars stuff. And it's 15 pages long, and you find out, why is there so much lore for the bugs that almost killed Padme and are around for a combined 90 seconds of screen time. But it's also part of the charm of the series in that it's so, they gave you a map. Oh, that's awesome.
That is so okay. That's charming. That just straight up looks like the maps that I've read in old Dungeons and Dragons shit.
Yeah, no, that brings me back to Nintendo Power issues where they would have little maps like that, and you would read them, or if you got the strategy guide to a game, and then they would have the little kind of they'd often be hand drawn because it's interesting. If they were a 2D game, it often would just kind of be the sprites scaled down so that it would be bigger.
Yeah, but of patched together into a map.
But if it was a 3D game, it would often be like hand drawn and top down. Because I guess they just didn't have the technology to do that kind of thing at that time.
Yeah, but like in old Dungeons and Dragons adventure books and stuff, you would also see maps like that all the time. And it's taken me back to my years of buying old tabletop RPG books just to read through them because I didn't have anyone to play with and still don't. And I would actually just read through them and my imagination would go wild. And I would imagine what the adventure going through that dungeon was like. Of course, spoiling the prospect of ever playing that adventure myself by reading the book, but still.
So it's interesting. A lot of it is like involves the imagination, like in terms of like it's supposed to spark the imagination when you're reading it, but also there's some imagination that has to be put into the hands of whoever's running the game. I know this because recently a friend of mine was doing a D&D campaign based, and he had the book. And we got to a point in the campaign where we met, the all-powerful wizard who gave us the quest. And I, because my character is a jackass, was like, why can't you do this? No. And then my DM gave like an equally snarky response back. And then after the fact, he was like, yeah, so the book has no explanation as to why these literally all-powerful, world-changing wizards can't just solve the problem by themselves.
Okay, so a slight tangent. I have a question for any arachnophobes who are unfortunate enough to still be watching this. Does reducing the number of legs spiders have actually do anything for arachnophobia? Because these are 6-legged spiders. That's just not right.
That is actually a good point.
I think it just has to be close enough to make you think that it's the thing that you're looking at. If it's far enough removed,
to psychologically connect as being a spider.
Yeah, like, so if you're looking at something and even if it has 6 legs, it looks spidery enough, like it skitters like a spider and has the weird eyes like a spider and crawls on the walls and whatnot, it probably still does the thing. Just remember, spiders are your friends. They eat nasty bugs.
I'm definitely not arachnophobic. I love spiders, actually, but I will say the ones that are fast freak me out. Like huntsman, dude, I had a huntsman spider on my freaking wall and it was the size of my entire palm. And geez. It moved, it darted and skittered and it would be there 1 second and gone the next. And I was like, I love spiders. I hate this one. Granted, I still wouldn't kill it. I would put it outside, but no thanks.
Me and spiders have an agreement in that I leave them alone and they leave me alone. And we mutually benefit from each other's. Actually, I don't think there's much mutual about it. They eat the bugs I don't like, and then I don't kill them for doing that. Is that a soda cup? Wow, they're treating their prisoners well in here. They get them the big gulps for...
A big old Baja Blast for the prisoners.
This game's been really moody and atmospheric, but every so often I just see something silly like a mailbox with a little red flag on it.
I like that, honestly, because that's another Zelda thing too, is that there's a lot of weird anachronisms in Zelda a lot of the time, where the game has this fantasy look and then randomly there's just like a modern postman walking around. So
yeah.
I personally find that charming. I know.
I don't know. As someone who's played enough Skyrim to be annoyed by that fucking courier, the postman is retroactively very funny.
I know speedrunners hate the postman because he slows everyone down by interrupting what you're doing.
Oh yeah, well he has to stop the game to do his little animation and then give you a letter and then leave.
Oof.
Okay, so when we restart the gaming rigs, what do those do?
Those power things.
Okay.
The gaming rigs.
What do you...
Gaming rigs?
What else do you think? It's a glowy gray, gray-black box with LED lights on it. What else is it supposed to be?
I never thought of it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think of it that way either, but I'm looking at my own computer here, which was a pre-built one that I bought off Amazon, and I'm like, yeah. for some reason, gaming rigs just want to be these super glowy thermonuclear machines, and I'm just like, dude.
My new rig actually like has no LEDs, and I can't tell when it's on or off. It's also like stupid quiet, so every time I try to turn it on, I end up pressing the power button like 3 times because I'm like, did it take? Is it on? Is it running? And there's no lights, no nothing, and it's silent. I'm like, this is the most inobtrusive computer ever.
Having some lights is nice. I mean, I like being able to just look through a window on the side of my computer and see that everything is on. It also helps me remember that I need to dust the damn thing out every now and then.
I do miss having a window on the computer. It's such a minor thing, and I like, ultimately I don't really care, but it definitely is. It surprisingly has been a little bit of an adjustment. Why are you killing the babies? They're not bothering you.
Well, what I was going to say, though, is that even though I like having the window and the lights to help, make sure that I know that it's on and all, sometimes I actually do want to render videos while I'm asleep, and, having my computer glowing at me in the same room is...
yeah.
And it's really annoying because I also have a gaming keyboard attached to this thing, but the lights on the
yes.
the lights on the keyboard will turn on even when the computer is off if I so much as nudge one of the buttons by accident, and it won't turn off again until I turn the computer on and shut it down. It is
I get that.
Why do gaming computer things need to be so goddamn glowy all the time?
This is part of the reason why I moved my computer out of my room. I can't anymore with that. So I do get that.
It's like my mouse glows, my keyboard glows, my computer glows. It all glows. Why does it need to glow?
It's so that you can see people gaming from space.
It also makes it go faster, clearly.
Yeah, but it's like even when you're gaming, the glowiness of your computer and your mouse and your keyboard can be distracting. I'm just like, why do people want distractions in their lives?
The last thing that I have that glows in that gamer TM RGB style is my keyboard, and it's the last thing, and I don't know if I'm gonna keep that when this one fizzles out. I'm still deciding.
Is it like a nice keyboard otherwise? Does it have the like clacky?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's actually a very nice keyboard. It's I've had it for a while. It's a Razer before Razer started getting crappy, so it's been lasting.
Okay. Do you mute yourself before you start typing in the Discord call? Is the question though?
Yes, I do like actively mute and unmute myself when I don't want to be obnoxiously clacking, but I also just like type extremely slowly and very gently when I don't want it to get picked up.
Man, that's bringing back memories. When I was still living at my mom's house, right? The main computer everyone used before I managed to save enough tax refund to buy one of my own was just like in like the computer office room was open to the rest of the house. It had an open wall that led into the kitchen. It had an open wall that led into the hallway. So everyone could hear me typing, and my stepdad complained so much about how loud and fast I type.
No.
because I type rapid fire hunt and peck. I'm just like, and I shouldn't have done that because I just what time are we at? Oh wait, hang on. I can restart where I left off. Good.
Oh, you actually pressed the button. I thought you were making a joke.
I was like about to like demonstrate how loud I typed, but I forgot that typing is apparently tied directly to whatever app you're in, because for some reason people can't just be satisfied using their mouse. They have to have keyboard shortcuts for everything. Okay, so I stopped my video by mistake there. I'm sorry. But basically, I typed so loud and fast that that my stepdad was constantly complaining about it. So I eventually got my own computer. And that was good, but I had to deal with him complaining at me for typing every time I was on the computer. For a couple years there.
Well, rip. See, my memories of a clacky keyboard in that sense is when I was a kid, staying up late when I wasn't supposed to, and just like very carefully trying to not make sounds with my keyboard so I didn't get caught.
You're smarter than I am. I was the dumbass teenager who would like use my voice for optional voice microphone stuff on DS games in bed. And then I would be shocked when my parents could hear me talking in my room instead of sleeping. Like,
oh no, dude.
listen, I know I could have pressed the Y button to ask questions in Ace Attorney instead of shouting "hold it" into the microphone, but is that really as fun? Don't answer that.
No.
Don't answer that
Yeah.
question. I know.
No. That's valid. You gotta get into it. You gotta experience the whole thing.
Yeah, the experience is
funny.
also saying the words over and over again because the microphone couldn't understand what you were saying.
That reminds me of the Wii U version of Mass Effect 3, actually. There was a Wii U version of Mass Effect 3. Don't play it. It's not worth it. The other two games aren't on there, so you don't get the full experience. But it had voice commands for your squad mates. And I'm just
Using
like...
the Wii U microphone? Oh, God.
Oh no.
Like I said, don't play it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, like, the whole point of the Mass Effect series is like, oh, your decisions matter. So the idea of jumping straight into the third one, not even just not knowing what's going on, but also like, oh, you're using a blank save file. And do they randomize the choices from the previous games if you do that?
Actually, by then, I think it was partly because of the Wii U version that they did this, but no, wait, they did it with Mass Effect 2 as a DLC as well. But there's like this sort of backstory comic that you can play through at the beginning of the game if you're starting on a fresh save that lets you make some of the big choices. So it's like you won't get all of the little save import bonuses. There's a side quest that deliberately lumps a lot of the most inconsequential choices from Mass Effect 1 and 2 together into a little bit of a comedy skit, to be honest. But like you'd at least be able to make the choices related to like the Krogan genophage stuff and whatnot.
Oh yeah, that's
So-
where if you decide to make it so
it's-
that they can have babies again, right?
Did one of your party members die in the first game? Oh, sorry. You locked yourself out of the good ending there, partner. Oof.
I do find it interesting when this game decides to give you English and when it doesn't. I get for certain things in the manual, like they want you to definitely know what that means.
Well, it reads a little bit like a Japanese gaming manual in that there are certain things that are just labeled in English for reasons I'll never be able to figure out. But they even do the thing where it's like brackets around English that I often see in Japanese stuff.
Right.
It's like I have
Oh yeah, this fight made me turn on the flashing lights reducer.
Yeah, no, this
because
is
I could not
I can.
with this.
There's some electric Porygon
okay.
energy in this guy.
Note to self, Tunic Part 5, flashing lights warning.
Listen, they just really needed to emulate the 80s gaming experience. Because if you look back at especially some Atari games, they didn't give a crap about who had epilepsy.
There were no regulations back then.
Yeah.
You could do whatever the heck you
I
wanted.
don't think it was like fully understood at the time either.
Probably
No,
not,
no,
but
no.
I also I can't imagine that nobody... Because even if you don't have severe epilepsy, it still, like, hurts your eyes to look at it if they flash too much. Like, did the people watching just not care? Or it didn't bother them? It's, you know...
Well, the other thing, though, is that I think it was also a little bit different when the standard was CRT televisions, just because of the way they handled the lights.
It might be less straining on
That's
CRT.
true.
That is true.
Of course, like anything corporate, it took not only a while for people to understand epilepsy, but also a while for them to bull rush through the red tape and actually push a regulation through. Because politics take forever to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think at the time that video game companies and television companies and anything wanted an informational warning to display about epilepsy? No.
Yeah, no, they probably fought that the same way cigarette companies fought any kind of, smoking can be bad for you kind of,
yeah.
kind of warning.
I mean, of course, on this side of things, when we already have those warnings commonplace, we know they don't hurt business. They never have. People are still going to smoke. People are still going to play video games and watch TV. A few people might just, not get hurt doing it.
It's honestly kind of funny, with the smoking ones especially, depending on which state you're in. I feel like some of the smoking ads in California, half of it isn't ad, half of it's if you smoke, you will kill yourself and everyone around you. You should feel bad.
Oh, God.
They're huge, which is honestly very funny to me personally. But you're right in that, the 10-second clip at the beginning of every Wii game that said take a break every 15 minutes and also don't smack people swinging the Wii remote. That show.
Well, during that era, for some reason, they got really insistent on take a break.
Oh,
And
that is true.
I remember some games being really obnoxious about it, where it wouldn't even be an hour before you would get a notification of hey, you've been playing for a while. Why don't you stand up, nerd?
So for some of them, I
leave me
get
alone.
it. If it was anything with it's interesting. The games where there's heavy motion control and they're telling you to take a break, I can honestly get it, because if you're physically exerting yourself and you're a sweaty nerd who doesn't leave your basement, maybe you do want to take a break. But oftentimes,
Yeah.
I guess also thinking about it, a lot of these are on the 3DS too, and they're probably there so that you don't kill your eyes by looking at the 3D effect too long.
That is true.
It's also just because Nintendo themselves like to maintain that family-friendly image. So, they're a little bit more sensitive to what parents are saying about their games than other companies. What the?
We got a thingy.
That has the same energy as those fleamen coming after me after I beat the behemoth boss in Castlevania 64. What the what the fuck?
I forgot to do this on my first playthrough, so I had to come back and
you forgot
do
to
this.
put the thing.
Yeah.
You have to put the thing in here.
Well, it's kind of easy to not notice. You get the thing and you're like, I wonder what that does, and you just walk around this thing.
Yeah, no, I could see missing that. I mean, I'm also that seems bad to touch. There's skulls on it.
Well,
Was
too
that
bad.
a mistake?
Nope, you're supposed to grab that.
Okay. But I more mean is the character not supposed to do that? Is touching that bad?
No.
Okay.
Well,
I
sort
don't know
of.
how many seconds behind I was.
But I mean, I'm also when I played Ocarina of Time for the first time, I just forgot to pick up some of the hearts after you beat the bosses. So I think I had to walk through the entire Forest Temple again to get a heart container, because it was the last one I had missed. And it's where's this last one? I found every heart piece. It's oh. And I didn't remember which boss I had missed it, so I walked through 2 or 3 other temples to the end just to make sure as well.
Secret passage for later.
Oh, wait a second. I literally just noticed that wall facing the camera is the same pattern as the wall in the mountain.
Yeah, it is.
Huh.
I literally only just realized that.
Does this function as a hub warp kind of room too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, spirit person.
Mama!
Is that all the crap we found and given her?
No, we haven't done anything yet.
Okay. Well, I meant there was a bunch of crap on the ground in front of her. So I was thinking maybe that's
Bunch of random items floating in the ether.
we do burn stuff to give to her.
I'm actually not sure if it correlates, but I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like I also asked that, but I don't remember what the answer was. It was in one ear, out the other, and then I kept playing the game.
I'm starting to wonder if there's any Egyptian correlation with this, just because the statues look an awful lot like Anubis statues.
I think they're just meant to be foxes, but possible.
Yeah, okay, it could be more of a Japanese thing. I know very little about Egyptian mythology. There's Ra. He's the sun dude, and he's a bird. That's all I know.
Osiris is the god of the dead, and that's all I know, because I had to do a report on him in school.
It's because growing up, if it wasn't Greek, the schools didn't care. And eventually, Marvel got more popular, and people started caring more about Norse.
I mean, I don't think foxes would factor into Egyptian stuff much. I mean, jackals do look a bit similar, though.
Yeah, so foxes and dogs are
true.
distantly related. So it's more like the way that the angle that you're seeing the fox statues kind of gave me Anubis statue vibes from things that I've seen before, but you're right in that it doesn't really look all
it's also more that the anthropomorphic element is stronger in that statue because it's supposed to look more dignified than cartoony. So it does end up looking more like a human with an animal head, which is very Egyptian.
Yeah.
Whereas, Tunic down here has a very, chibi, chubby kind of profile.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And also, it looks like pretty much everybody here is a fox person of some sort, so that wouldn't be that strange from there just being like a fox person statue as well.
Yeah.
Blow him up.
When in doubt, light it on fire.
If it's pulling from anything mythological, it's probably Japanese, because there's more fox imagery in Japanese mythology
Kitsune
than
and all that stuff, yeah.
Although, again, Japanese mythology is also something I know sparingly little about. Basically, just what I picked up from video games and manga. Because
well, everyone knows the freaking nine-tailed fox thanks to Naruto.
Yeah,
But
it just goes to show what I know. Is like I watched the first couple episodes of Naruto, and I'm like Pokemon. And I believe they are based on the same myth. So
they are based on the same myth. The nine-tailed fox is a recurring thing. There's also one in Tokyo Xanadu. That is a good game.
What does the little white squares that you've been finding with the pictures?
Those are buffs that you can equip. You have to kind of just mess around and figure out what they do. The only one that sort of tells you is the only one that's really kind of necessary, but we'll be getting to that later.
Necessary.
Yeah, you don't technically need it, but it helps a lot.
It does help a lot, God. I did a lot of stupid stuff in this game, and I die a little inside when I think about it.
Well, again, this is the kind of game where it's like you're supposed to fumble around and figure it out. So, it's just a matter of, unless if you're the kind of person who's going to sit around and experiment with everything until you're sure what it does, like, you're not going to know some of this stuff,
Yeah.
And since you were streaming it, watching someone fuddle around with something for a half an hour each time you find something new, like, I can understand why you'd want to just, like, go.
Yeah, that's very generous of you to say that. Thank you for that. That makes me feel better in my heart.
And then, unfortunately, there's the mods who get overzealous that asking questions is apparently spoilers, so...
Oh, yeah, no, that... So, okay, so here's the thing. I don't necessarily blame mods for not... it's understandable that most mods would assume the average Twitch chatter is not acting in good faith. Unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. But, especially if it's somebody who's been on the stream before, you usually can tell when they're, when, somebody's just like, what does that do? Versus somebody's being like, wow, idiot, I can't believe you didn't XYZ,
Yeah, tone counts for a lot.
I remember I got banned from a chat first time because I asked what choice someone made in Omori when they were like 10 hours after that fact. And the mods on the stream were just like, oh my god, spoilers. And I'm like, you made that choice like 10 hours ago. It's already done.
God.
Oops.
But yeah, we'll see you all in the next part where we enter the next area of Tunic. See you all then.